Now, the fourth aspect is an evil in the society which we all should be avoiding, which is the evil of riba, getting involved in interest-based transactions, in interest-based economy. So, my dear brothers and sisters, today we live in a world where riba is the system, where we live everywhere. The banking system, the dealings, the transactions, they're all massively ingrained in riba economy, in interest economy. So it is important that as a Muslim, as a believer, we try to avoid this evil. Small aspects of every day, maybe those issues, but the bigger aspects, we must make sure that we are far away from such deeds. For example, buying a house on a bank loan, buying a car on a bank loan, which includes interest transactions, getting a cash loan based on riba, based on interest economy. We know many private lenders do that. We know many private individuals give loans of cash loans on interest. We know that many amongst us, many around us, they have gone to the banks and purchased houses. So there are people who take interest and there are people who give interest. We must avoid all those situations because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns very, very severely in the Quran, in Surah Baqarah, Surah number 2, ayah number 275 and ayah number 276, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it is as though a person who is involved in riba is a person who is like, the person who is taking riba is like the person to whom the shaitan has touched. Meaning when the shaitan touches you, you become mad, you become crazy, you have lost all your senses. That is how this person is considered in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the hadith, in volume number 3, in Sahih Bukhari, volume number 3, hadith number 299, as well in Sahih Bukhari, volume number 7, hadith number 845, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned 70 positions of punishment, of sin, of the burden of sin of the person who gets involved in riba transaction. 70 levels of sin and punishment, my dear brothers and sisters. It's a very, very huge sin considered in Islam. So what is being involved in riba? You take riba from people, you give riba, you get involved in a transaction which includes riba, you are a witness in the transaction of riba. All of this, the Prophet ﷺ said, all of these people are under the category of people who are dealing with riba. To the extent that in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, if you pass through the house of a person who deals and earns in riba, then avoid even the shadow of the wall of the house of that person. Subhanallah. Can you imagine? You are almost asked to boycott a person who earns and lives on riba. So then imagine if I and you are involved into it. So the earlier hadiths that I mentioned, about which the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the 70 levels of sin, which is thrown on the shoulders of the person who is involved in riba, the lowest of which, the Prophet ﷺ said, it is as though you are having an illicit affair with your own mother. And the highest, the Prophet ﷺ said, which is also mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah number 2, ayah number 275, all the way up to ayah number 280, is a declaration of war against Allah and His Messenger. My dear brothers and sisters, that's riba. We have to really make sure that we are away from these sins.